I'm not gonna lie, when I first decided to watch Takt Op Destiny, I really didn't know what to expect. I love music and I make music quite often if you didn't know, so I thought this was just gonna be an anime that incorporates a lot of musical terminology and ideas with some decent fight scenes and nothing too special or groundbreaking about it. But I'm really happy to announce that I was wrong. Takt Op Destiny was an amazing watch and surprisingly packed a lot of story content and entertaining action sequences into its 12 episode run. I binged it all in one night. I mean, that should say something. And I must say that I'm pleasantly surprised, and this anime left me extremely satisfied. So let's talk about it. Before we get into it, as always, man, hit the like, subscribe button. Helps you support the channel, helps me, helps you. So, you know how we do things around here. We start off with the story. The story in the show is actually really good. It's not as predictable as you might think, and everything connects and makes sense by the end. Literally every question I had when I was watching this was answered, so there are literally no complaints over on this side about the story. Our story follows our main protagonist named Takt, who is this very antisocial music addict. All he thinks about 24/7 is music and the piano. We learned that his father was a well-renowned musician and that pretty much everyone that listens to music in the world knows. We also learned that in this world, music isn't really as common as you think it is because of the presence of these monsters called D2s. D2s are basically drawn to music and they've killed a lot of people that's chosen to dwell into music anyway, including Takt's father. One day, two of his friends, Anna and 𝐿𝐤𝐤, take his piano out of his garage and bring it to this park so he can play for people at this festival. Eventually, 𝐿𝐤𝐤 and Takt play this beautiful, very beautiful duet in this very cool and heartwarming scene. Shortly after, tragedy strikes and D2s attack the park, killing 𝐿𝐤𝐤, but in the process turning 𝐿𝐤𝐤 into a Musicarts, now known as Destiny, and turning Takt into a conductor. So, to explain this in simple terms, Musicarts are basically these beings that are created to fight D2s that use music, and they're born from music. And conductors are, just as it sounds, people that control them in the fight, which is a pretty cool, unique way to kind of approach fight scenes, which is pretty cool. They're basically taking this big road trip to make it to New York to be able to tune Destiny so she doesn't take up Takt's life force and end up killing him. The story ended up being way better than I anticipated, I'm not gonna lie. There are a lot of subplots intertwined with the main story, which I think is super dope considering how short this anime is. Along with the main goal of stopping the D2s for good and finding the root of the D2s, there are also a few mysteries that'll keep your interest on, early on in the show. Like what happened to Takt's father, who is Lenny and what kind of connection does he have to Takt, what's going on in Destiny's head, and is there a way to bring 𝐿𝐤𝐤 back, or is 𝐿𝐤𝐤 still alive in there somewhere? Will Destiny stop breaking shit? There's a lot of stuff to think about in this anime. That's what really kept me interested throughout the whole watch. Not even mentioning the fact that this is just a super unique concept that screams, "Hey, music nigga, come watch this." I really enjoyed my time with pretty much every aspect of the story. Watching Takt and Destiny's relationship improve, watching Takt and Destiny develop into better beings individually, and the whole deal with Symphonica unfold. Even the small things like looking at the music terminology and enjoying the classical musical references. Gang, they had a section where he was in a jazz club and they was full out playing jazz music in the anime. It ain't regular jazz, this is like nigga jazz. And I was super satisfied when I seen this scene because I didn't think that they were gonna do this. The story was really good and I definitely love every bit of it. I'm not gonna lie, the story was amazing in this show. Now, let's move on to characters and character interactions. By no surprise, the character writing in this show is actually really great. All the important niggas are written stupidly well, and it makes you cherish every moment you have with them since the anime is so short. Takt is a really well-written character that gets a lot of development throughout the anime. He starts off as the shut-in musician that only spent his time working on something musical, and that's it. It was to the point where Anna and 𝐿𝐤𝐤 kind of had to forcefully make him go outside and get out of his comfort zone, which really sounds just like me for real, keep it a bean with you. He's not just this goody two-shoe ass dude either though. He can come off as a very rude, snarky, and dismissive asshole to the point where you really think he's an asshole. But as the story went on, in kind of the same way that Ray from Buddy Daddies did, he came out of his shell. You see him willingly take breaks from his musical endeavors to take walks and go outside. You see him willingly check on Destiny even though seemingly every exchange in between those two ends up in bickering and name calling. You see him actually develop a soft spot for the people around him and you see him carry on his pop's legacy, which is pretty cool. And realize that music is still super important, but only if people that he loved can hear his music. And he believes that the whole world should be able to experience music without fear, just like his dad did before he put on his last show. His journey changed him a lot, and by the end of it, we see that he was willing to sacrifice a pretty extreme amount to save music, and I think that's really cool because it's really selfless of him. Destiny is written great too. Just like Takt, she got hella character development. She started off as this kind of hollow and unaware and sort of robotic personality, only being able to fight D2s and no other functions or interests. But throughout the story, we see her go off on her own quite a bit, and in that time, she starts to help people and actually become a functioning member of society. Her relationship with Takt also improves drastically. You start to see her actually care for him from that scene in the cave. That scene in the cave was like really cool. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole show between the two. Takt wakes up from like damn near dying, and him being a dickhead, the first thing he say like, "Hey gang, you did these bandages bogus as hell. I could have did a better job at this." And she was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna cap, you right." That whole exchange was funny as hell, but it shows that not much has changed between them. They still joke around and bicker and go back and forth, but they actually care about each other a lot now. It's just behind all of that, which is I think is a really cool thing. It's a really cool dynamic to display. They work so well as a main duo, and I really think that this could be one of the best duos in anime. Seeing their progression was super satisfying throughout the story, and it all happened so fast, but I still enjoyed it. The pacing wasn't a problem at all. Anna is great too. She acts as the voice of reason between Takt and Destiny. I really like how realistic they made her. She reacted to the whole 𝐾𝐨 thing being a music art just like she was supposed to. I like how they developed her too. She went from looking for glimpses of 𝐾𝐨 within Destiny and trying to figure out how to turn her back to 𝐾𝐨 potentially, and to her actually accepting Destiny as her sister and loving her for who she is now. She wasn't really able to help them fight, but she's a super essential part of the team, and she's committed to seeing Takt and Destiny happy. She's definitely a super solid character, and the little twist at the end of her joining 𝐶 is actually really cool. I didn't see that coming. I really didn't. Lenny is great. Like, Lenny is actually a really great character. His connection to Takt's father is really cool. I like his execution. He's a really cool character, man. His whole role in the story is pretty vital. Since that day that Takt's father died, he vowed to protect his son. And it was just cool to see like those little flashbacks of after Takt's father died, him being outside of Takt's garage when he's trying to learn piano and like really frustrated when he was trying to learn piano. Like, it was really cool to see Lenny actually being a part of that and him actually have like a deeper connection to the main character and his family. That was really cool to me. The whole thing about him becoming a whole 𝐶 member and him realizing how corrupt the organization was a great touch too. It's a nice another subplot within this story, which is really crazy. Like, it's really a lot of stuff that keep you interested in this show. His sacrifice was actually really goated too. That sacrifice scene was really goated. It's probably one of my favorite moments in the show, if I'm being honest with you. Lenny was actually a really good character. I really like how they executed his character a lot. The rest of the characters are pretty solid too. Titan and Valkyrie are cool. It's cool to see that magic arts can exist without their conductor or any conductor. Charlotte is super understanding of the situation, but it makes sense that because she works for 𝐶 and she's seen stuff like this before. Not like Takt and Destiny situation exactly, but she's been around Musicarts pretty much her whole life. All these characters are pretty good to me. There's no one I really dislike in this anime, and all the vocal performances are phenomenal. I just realized that Takt and Ray from Buddy Daddies had the same exact voice actor. Actually, he's a lot of niggas. He's Meruem, Toge, Ren, Shigaraki, and Soul. He really be doing his shit. But shout out to the whole voice cast of this, because y'all all did an amazing job. Like, an extremely amazing job. I'm really happy that y'all like put on this show for this anime, and actually like y'all made a really good anime. Like, y'all voice acting is really make or break. Like, you can't really have bad voice acting. So y'all really did y'all shit and made this really memorable. Now, let's move on to looks, presentation, and music. As far as I'm concerned, this show looks really good. And that's not a huge surprise considering that this show was done by MAPPA themselves. You can tell this wasn't like a big budget project like they would have with a Jujutsu Kaisen or any other major project that they're working on, but it still looks wonderful. The animation looks great. The fight choreography in this show is actually amazing too. All the fights are super flashy and creative. The best ones are, I think, between the Musicarts, obviously. The last fight between Destiny and the fused heaven and hell was great. They used so many visual effects and instances of color that just make these fights look beautiful and aesthetically pleasing. This anime looks great, and since this show is about music, you shouldn't be surprised to hear that this music is great too. All the classical music that plays during the fights, the jazz song or the jazz club, the small moment where Takt is playing the piano in the garage, the beautiful duet with �𝐨𝐲 in that park. There are a lot of scores that can just stick with you throughout this anime. Impact sounds are on point. Once again, there are no complaints about anything in this show. I'm super impressed how this show looks and sounds. The sound design is on point. It's always nice to go into an anime blind and come out with an absolute gem. I really didn't hear much about Takt Op Destiny, but once again, I'm glad that I took the time to binge it. And once I got one episode in, it was up. Like, I was super hooked in and super interested because of the concept. If you're an anime fan and you love music, this is pretty perfect for you. I'm not gonna lie. The way that they fight is pretty creative. The story is really good. There's a fair amount of variety in the music department. Watch this if you love music easily. And honestly, even if you don't, this anime is really accessible to everyone. You don't have to have an unhealthy love for music like me to enjoy this. The fight scenes, the story, and the characters are more than enough for an average, reasonable anime fan. Watch Takt Op Destiny, gang. It's yet another 12-episode anime that gave me everything that I wanted, even though I came in with no expectations. This show blew me away, man. This show is really good, and I recommend it to a lot of people. And what do you got to lose, man? It's a good anime, so give it a try. But that's all from me, man. As always, man, have a great day. Peace.